Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Grapplers Academy. Today we're going to be going over a technique that we looked at last week from side control. A couple of people have asked how can they secure the hip, the elbow on the hip a little bit tighter. So we'll be going over a couple of details there to look at how we can cut the elbow to get the hip in and secure a tighter position. We're going to have a chat about why it's really important to have a good side control as well. And Simon's going to go over a technique where we refer back from a previous video studying a match between LISTER and Josh Barnett and look at a scaffold finish from side control also. So to continue on from where we left off with the side control and securing the arm and blocking Simon's ability to re-guard and defend, we're going to start in the same position again with the outside shoulder capped, and then I've got this cross-face pressure with the shoulder. Now the simple technique that we looked at last time was bringing the knee up to elevate the elbow onto my hip so I can simply just roll over and trap that in the position here. Some people have been having some difficulty with that and asking questions as well. So another thing that I like to do here, if I'm struggling to get the hip in, or if they're simply just doing a really good job of tucking this elbow, so every time I come up, he's actually just doing a good job of framing and I can reset there, but every time I go again, he's bringing it in. What I'm going to do in this circumstance is use a really tight pinch on the shoulder here to stop him from turning away and cap the elbow. So I'm going to pinch my elbow on Si's elbow and I'm going to grab the tricep as well. Now when I start to move here, it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to bring the arm through. And now you can see that I've got the clearance on my hip that I was discussing last week. We can come back in and now make a nice tight secure side control position without him able to get that frame back in and able to re-guard. Now if he is able to get that in and I don't keep a good pinch, he's going to be able to re-guard here, and then I'm back at square one. I've got to pass the guard and I've lost all that good control that I've developed. So the main reasons why it's important to have a good pinch there is it shuts down a lot of options that the guy on the bottom's got for re-guarding, but it also presents you with a lot of options for attacking from the top as well. We've got Kimura setups, Darce setups, head and arm triangles, the works.
Yeah, even the scaffold that we're going to be looking at today. Yeah. And this arm trap here ties in really nicely with what we're going to be looking at in the next half of the video. But yeah, as Bonn says, you want to try and imagine that your opponent underneath you is like a water mattress, so to speak. So as you put pressure one way, you're going to sort of have to alleviate the other end. So you want to be having a constant flow of pressure that's really going to keep your opponent pinned to maximise your ability to find a finish or transition to the next position.
And it's a really simple little thing, so I'll go on the bottom here and so I can go through that same cap on the elbow and then we'll transition that how we can set up the scaffold position. But when I'm here and Simon's got a good side control position to start off with, there is the potential for me to bring this elbow in and start framing and get my re-guard and then whatever else I can get from there. But if he does a great job of shutting this down and then making the space go away from my armpit so I've not got the ability to re-guard, when he brings this hip through to sit through and then does a good job of capping the elbow to stop me from bringing this in, it makes it really difficult for me to start turning. There's a lot of good pressure on my torso already, and that's a perfect setup for the scaffold finish.
And another little detail as well, just to make sure you secure this position, is when you do get underneath and turn your hip back over, try to bring my knee past Bonn's ear. So if you see in the camera, if I go too shallow and come back in, there's a lot of space there. Whereas if I come up and turn all the way under and over, it takes away that ability to get the elbow back in because I've taken away all the space near the shoulder.
Really important to have a good tight side control, and this is why it's important, and we think it's a good tip for white to blue belt, because it's one of those things that's really going to elevate your game and take you to the next level and really up your percentages on finishes.
Okay guys, so the next part of the video is we're going to be looking at scaffold, how to stay in that position and also more importantly how to finish from that position. Now there's a big misconception about this submission is that people think it's a bit of a neck crank, whereas when done right, it's actually a diaphragm crush and inhibits the ability to breathe. And whenever you get it right with somebody, they almost feel like they're drowning because their breath gets shallower, shallower and shallower. And getting everything sort of right is important to getting this position really secure, and also ensuring that you don't get your back taken when you go into it.
If you go back and watch the video, I think we did a full in-depth match breakdown of how Josh Barnett finished Dean Lister with this position. There was a little bit of confusion from the guys commentating on the match, and even after the fact from the jiu-jitsu community, it's a little bit more of a catch wrestling finish, not a typical jiu-jitsu submission. And there was a little bit of uncertainty about what actually was going on with the submission, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we're going to give a couple of details on how actually you can make it more effective for... I think there was some confusion about it was a big guy technique, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's very much available to anybody, provided that you get the leverage and the mechanics right for the submission. You may struggle if there's like a noticeable size difference between the two opponents, but it shouldn't be the determining factor of whether this submission works or not. So we're going to start off initially from side control, where Bonn's got his frames in. He's got his cross face, he's got his frame under the throat here. Now, I want to clear this. So we can do a couple of ways. We'll look at the way that what we did it last week, where we're going to slide underneath the armpit, and then I'm going to cup the elbow, make sure this elbow stays off the mat, and I'm going to turn my hips over to trap this near side arm between my thigh and hip and Bonn's head and his shoulders as well. Now, it's going to be quite difficult for me to go straight from this position here to the submission position. So I need to sort of get Bonn thinking about something else before I actually go for it. And again, those that are looking for their white to blue journey, having a plan A and a B is very important here. And having something that you're going to sort of almost do the bait and switch with is going to help ensure the success of this submission. So what I do when I'm here, and I've got this, is my hand that was the crossface is going to come over. I'm going to start attacking this arm here. So I'm going to start to find the wrist, start trying to pin the arm to the mat, attempting the Kimura, and again, make sure this Kimura attempt is convincing. There's no point me sort of half-heartedly going for a Kimura here, not having any pressure through him, and then also letting Bonn get his arm back and get his frames back in. It's just not going to work out well for me. So I need to make sure that I'm pinning the arm to the mat and really trying to crank this submission on, making him actively defend this position here. Now when he does this, he tends to like straighten the arm, keeping hold of this here, but this gives me the ability to get my hips that little bit higher, bringing this arm a little bit higher, further across his body. Now when I feel ready and my balance is there, this arm that's over the top is going to come back round, and I'm going to bring this arm underneath, under the head, take this elbow, I'm going to sit my back leg all the way through. Now when I do this, I'm not allowing my hips to go to the floor. I'm keeping the toes in, bringing the arm under, cupping the elbow, up on my toes and sliding all the way through. So the only thing that's on the floor are my toes, and the rest of my weight is going through Bonn's rib cage. Now when I land here, I need to make sure that this arm stays really tight and I'm keeping hold of the elbow. Now if I let go of this elbow and Bonn can get this bottom arm free, he's going to be able to get out, he can also take my back. So we need to ensure that I've got this elbow cupped, my knee is past Bonn's head, and this hand here is cupping the hamstring. So once I've got to this position here, where my little toes are on the front foot, I'm on my toes on this foot, and my hips are in the air, I need to try and get this arm away from my body. So typically what happens when you're here is somebody will they'll tie their hands behind your back, and they'll try and bridge you over. So they'll try and bridge up and they'll send me over the opposite direction. Now if your base is right, and you've got the control of the head, you can take the bridge away by bringing the head off the floor, and you can keep great control of this arm here. Now what we're going to do with this arm that's free, is I'm going to come right behind the elbow with the blade in my hand, and almost imagine that I'm trying to heel hook his elbow here. Now this is really going to help him break the grip, and it's not too pleasant on the shoulder either. So if somebody starts doing this, they'll tend to straighten their arm to try and fight out. As they do this, you're going to let it go, you're going to come underneath the elbow, take a gable grip with your arms, okay? Now once you're here, this is where it's time to start looking at the finish. Now what I need to do is I need to adjust the elbow of the hand around the head and bring it to the crown to make sure that, again, my hips are off the floor. I'm going to bring Bonn's ear, that's near the far arm, towards the near side hip. I'm not trying to just lean backwards and hope for the best. I'm trying to fold Bonn in half. So I'm here and I'm going to lift up and I'm really trying to bring his ear to his hip and holding it there, keeping my weight over the diaphragm. So let's go one more time through. We've got to here, slid up, stepped over, isolated this arm so it's nice and secure. This arm here, I'm going to come up and start attacking this. Now I need to make sure that this attack's convincing, otherwise they're not going to go for it. So start attacking, really get them to defend it. As they start to straighten it, I'm going to switch my hips and come through to here. On my little toe, on the ball of my foot. My rib cage is over Bonn's rib cage as well. If they tie their hands behind your back, I'm going to come underneath, cup the tricep, and start applying pressure there. As they defend out of that, I'm going to come back, come underneath the elbow. I also like to bring the bicep to the ear and tie my hands together. My elbow's going to come to the crown, right at the back of the head. Make sure my hips are floating. I'm going to fold Bonn in half and get the diaphragm crush.
Nasty submission. Nasty submission. I think the biggest mistake that most people make on this one is not getting their hips off the floor.
Yeah.
So you see people get to this position a lot, and there'll be something like this. So let's go this way around. So they'll kind of do everything right up to here, but they keep the hips on the floor. And it's that pressure, the lift and the drive, a little bit uncomfortable there. So just a small amount of pressure difference from there to here. Yeah. I'm not even doing anything, it's already uncomfortable. And then when we add in the crank, you're going to get a submission straight away. Got to get your weight onto your opponent.
One more difference here as well, that while Bonn's here, if you notice when he's lifting his hips up, they're going vertically up into the air, and we're not going across the body. If he goes across my body, the bridge and roll there. Whereas if he goes vertically up, there's no bridge and roll and his base is solid.
Yeah, I've still got downward pressure. So I'm looking to create as much pressure across this part of the rib cage as possible. If I start going lower, we're not going to create enough pressure to get the sub. And if I'm going in this direction, like we just saw, we're going to roll.
Thanks for watching the latest video, guys. If you've got any techniques that you'd like us to cover, or even any matches that you've seen where you'd like us to go into further detail, please drop us a message, drop it below in the comments, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe.
And don't forget to go back and check out the other videos in the Journey to Blue Belt series, as well as the breakdown of this match in full between Josh Barnett and Dean Lister. We've got some great details on it. We go through the whole match and not just the submission. It's a really interesting match. And if you like catch wrestling shorts, it's the match for you.